So, Omar, um, welcome to the third episode. I mean, what welcome? Like, this is our house. We live in this. It's not
Yeah.
like welcome. No, it's like, yeah. I don't know. I have to do some podcast, like, introduction and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah. Whatever.
welcome.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking, like, today, if we talk about, you remember, like, I first came to London and then I, like, came to the house at, like, 11 o'clock and I was dead asleep because I went to Kazakhstan, then stayed one day there. Then I
Mm.
came from Kazakhstan to London. It was like 13-hour flight,
Yeah.
and I was like dying. I was like, I want to sleep, and then you were like, "Oh, you're from India. Do you know about Mahabharata?" And then you started talking about Arjuna, Shri Krishna, and then like Kauravas, Pandavas, and stuff. And I was like, he knows more than me.
Well,
So, so
well, yeah. I mean, I do love the Indian ancient scriptures. It's because what people, I mean, Indians and people all over the world, they all assume is like Indian. But the
yeah,
knowledge is universal. That's like a fact.
yeah,
And it just happened to be preserved
in
in
India.
India, yeah. Because I mean, I have like a hunch or like a hypothesis is that like it was the great floods or whatever like happened like 11,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. So that huge cataclysm like brought down civilization, and it happened to be preserved. Like India was like less affected, or those places, or some of those places,
Never heard about this
at
one.
that time, and it got preserved there, the knowledge, in whatever form.
Like a quick question and a controversial one, and you can say I don't want to answer
Mm.
it, but like there's a huge debate. Like, first of all, do you believe in God or do you not believe in God? That's the first one. And a
Yes.
below layer is, if you believe in God, like in India, we are taught like this as a mythology. Like, oh, Sri
Mm.
Krishna is a mystic figure who didn't existed, or
Yeah.
like, so some say it's mythology, some say it's history, because
Yes.
there are instances where you can still see those places where there was fight, like battle and everything and stuff. You can say no, like you can say I don't want to answer it, but what do you think about, is it a history, like history of India, or is it?
So in India, like now I will answer that, but first
uh,
tell me, like in India, normal people, they think that like deities are like a myth or like a real thing.
I can't answer on everyone's behalf, of
No,
course,
but in
because
general,
um
like what's like the general,
I
or
mean
it's like some they think is like a
it's a
real. So I
some
so
some
I would say some things like no, they're real, but just in the heavens or something. Some would say yeah, they're real in the heavens and they were exactly the stories, they are like for real. Some will say like they're just myth and that's it.
So if you ask my grandmother,
Yes.
like two generations back, and she's like, yeah, everything happened, and this earth back then was like
Yes.
a place and everything and stuff. But if you ask me, um I still don't know. I mean, I know, but there are, it's in the gray side. And like right now, people, I don't know, I mean, I can't speak about people, but I can say like some people, some section of the society who believes in God think that it's real and it happened, while some say it's mythology and it's God. So it's like a godly figure, like it has nothing to do with humans. But yeah, there are two sections. So
Or three actually, or more.
what's the third one?
So they think there is a section of people that believe that it's like a god, and the stories are mythological, but the god exists, like the deities.
Yeah.
Another category, they believe in the deities as they are, and also that they were like actually on the earth and did all the things like history. Or the people who they say is no god, or like it's just mythology and that's it. It has nothing to do with like reality in a way, as we perceive it.
But then Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You said the right word. Reality as we perceive
yeah,
it,
yeah.
because
At
reality,
this moment and in this.
because reality is also a subjective
Yeah,
thing.
that's another topic, another
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we'll get into it,
Episode 4.
but it's like yeah, it's I mean there are many like hypotheses, many views, you know, like from physics, like and philosophy and many, but that's another like topic.
What do you like? What do you believe?
So
Because you read about it a lot.
yeah, so now my personal belief after like it's that it's an actual history that like actually happened
So like
and
Sri Rama, Sri
yeah, like
Krishna.
the Ramayana and Mahabharata, they were actual events, you know,
So
that
it's
they
like Indian history. It's not mythology.
well yeah, this is the thing, it's probably world history, not Indian history, because
Hmm.
even those names, you know, they say is like there in India, but probably some of them they're not in India. Like they were connected, you know. Imagine it was like a global civilization. So some of the places described, yeah, they might have been in India, but some they're for sure they were not. I mean, the description said clearly that they were like, for example, China, in the Americas, and basically all over the world, you know. And the technology described there uh, it would make sense that it could be achieved like now. For example, our current technology, like satellites, phones, whatever, you need basically the whole planet to work to make them. You can't
Yeah,
make them just like one place or one
bionics.
like countries tried, but it just doesn't work. You know,
Hmm.
it's a global effort. You know, to have like the smartphone which we use every day. It's like it
Yeah,
took a global effort to make it, and
yeah, of
even to
course.
this day. So I do believe that they are like real events, and if you dig deep, it it kind of I mean, even if somebody would say like no, it's not a real event or something like that, which is true, we don't have proof that it is or it's not,
Hmm.
but the descriptions there and what they say, you can clearly see that it was an advanced society, you know, by science, by social science, and everything else. And this knowledge cannot, like this level of advancement, it's highly unlikely, and especially what is written there is highly unlikely to be like a localized thing, you know, like how they just happen to be like that. Most likely, it was a global endeavor, you know, and it just happened to be preserved in the India, you know, and the scripture because it was connected to that place the most.
But like Mahabharata happened in India, right? Like it's the
Yeah,
like
yeah, it happened.
Ramayana, like when they were
Yeah.
going 14 years
Now
in the forest.
Ramayana, yeah, yeah, we know it's like from
So it happens like
like it's in India and like Sri
Current
Lanka,
Sri
Sri
Lanka,
Lanka, yeah, this one.
and I think um my mom was saying that there is a temple in Nepal where I think Shri Sita was born, or Shri Sita was there's some connection with Nepal as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's like the whole subcontinent.
So, so yeah, so basically now um, in those now if you extrapolate the knowledge, you know, from the Vedas and from those like scriptures of the Mahabharata, you can learn a lot, you know, like about the world today. So there is a lot of knowledge to be had, and I'm sure when our like science of the day and social sciences they will advance more, they will align more and more with what is written there, because my hypothesis is like that knowledge which they had, it was kind of like now 5,000 years, like from now how we do research, conduct everything, I mean, of course, in 5,000 years.
Hmm.
And that was that was the level of that society, you know,
So we
that
were
time.
kind of advanced, then we dipped down, and now we are.
Yeah, and mostly, I mean, it probably took a lot of, because there are many scenarios that could happen, you know, even now, for example, the world is in a way, because humans, I mean, they do have freedom, and the general idea and evolution of humanity would be like, okay, freedom means everyone chooses how they live, and that means that people will not be the same. So for example, if people choose, okay, we want to live like in huts, whatever, okay, by all means live in huts, but don't expect anything more or whatever. People want to go to space, study, whatever, work 50 hours, 60 hours a week, and have it, okay, by all means, do that, So most likely that society was kind of similar. There were like places very advanced and places very primitive, because they also like, being such an evolved society, would respect the freedom of any being, basically, So uh, these things might be like a natural outcome. For example, like Afghanistan now, they want to live like that, laws, huts, whatever, their own thing. Like I'm sure not all the people agree, which are there, but some really want that lifestyle. I mean, they, by all means, yeah, you do it. No problem, no judgment, no nothing. But just don't expect anything more.
Yeah,
Out of it. Uh,
they are not.
yeah, yeah.
Their passport is like on the lowest rankings of the.
So yeah, yeah. So this is like one of the hypotheses. Now, uh, now personally, like in in the Mahabharata, basically it's a lesson for humanity to understand. Now that time, now today, many humans would pass the trial of Sri Krishna. Now,
What
Krishna.
do you mean by trial of Sri Krishna?
So basically, society back then, they were mired in their own laws. So they thought the laws, or the divine laws, they are fixed. So for example, if they pledged allegiance to some king or whatever, they had to serve him no matter what, even if you did like
Horrible stuff.
horrible stuff, or like against your nature or everything. So many of the characters there, they were like conflicted, what should we do? But they followed, more or less, the world followed the rules as they were set. And they thought, there is no more, no less. And it brought down civilization, basically. 5,000 years. Now most humans today will pass the test, because they will realize, okay, these laws, so-called dharma, which is like, let's say, the morality or the laws of the humans to keep the balance, it's not a fixed thing. Like in nature, the balance is kept by a flowing, like you could say, like evolution. So it's always like in motion, it's always changing. So there is no fixed rule, to tell, okay, now in general, for example, okay, it's not good to steal or something, like, but say for example, you're like taken hostage, and you take the gun or whatever, a knife, to free yourself,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
stealing, basically. But it's like, yeah, you're like, it's clearly like not bad, or you
yeah, yeah,
won't
yeah, yeah,
suffer, you won't be punished or whatever,
yeah, yeah. Of course.
or like somebody's in danger, and you take somebody's, like this type of exam. And that story, of Mahabharata, all the, and okay, maybe normal people would, but all the top people, of the world that time, like the most powerful on the planet, they all fail. And it would only require one of them to pass, and the war wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah.
yeah, because they were very powerful, and then they could tip the balance of power easily, and then even if it were like to happen a conflict, it would be like a minor one. So, uh, so yeah, this is like what is like the main story of Mahabharata, and of course then there is Lord Krishna, which is like an example for humanity, So many misunderstood, like how, of course, many misunderstood, like they say it's not possible, like it's not possible for such a being to exist, like a human to be like that, but it's not true, you know. It's totally possible to be like he was detached, you know. So detachment doesn't mean negligence or
Ignorant.
ignorance. No,
Yeah.
means you don't want to own, you know. And one of the greatest powers in the universe, like if you wanna act on it, like to do stuff, is to be detached. Like the greatest artists, they're like, just do, doesn't matter.
Like the one which I showed you,
Yeah,
like
just
5 minutes
do,
ago.
just do, and the consequence doesn't matter. Successful, not successful, great, not great. You know, those are the greatest artists because they are
So
detached. They're like, yeah, it doesn't matter what happens.
then
You know?
I'm not detached at the moment. Then I'll grow. I'll learn
Yeah.
basically.
So these are the greatest, like, and all the great things and feats and everything. They're like detachment. You know, and even for our own like benevolence and psyche. You know, for example, in the family, you know, you are attached. Okay, what if I don't know something happens to my wife, to my now this attachment makes you suffer for no good reason because you don't know what will happen, and even if you know or you don't know, you can't control it. So there is no point of you worrying it, you know, worrying or stuff. But someday you say like, oh, it's very hard and stuff, you know. Yeah, I mean, from a certain point,
It's hard.
it is hard. Yeah, if it is hard because uh, humans need like some humanity needs something like a tether to be attached to someone, because if you are completely detached is scary because there is nothing to bind you to the world or to the anything basically. So this, like in the scriptures, basically uh, you have to be attached to the higher power, which is the living force, the power like that makes nature and everything in the universe like move, and you could say God, you know. So being attached to that living force, then you can be detached from everything else. So then these things can actually manifest in our world, you know, like in this today, you know. And the consequence is that you get to enjoy it more, because if you are detached and you witness it, it's just like a movie or a play, you know, so you don't get affected. You might play the role, but inside you're calm and quiet, you know. So
Yeah, there's
children fail, whatever, don't get the job and stuff. It's just like a episode, you know, like a.
no, yeah,
But of course, you know, this also requires like mastery of body and mind. So now, in those times, those elite warriors or like high society and everything were like trained, you know, like, and in all the scriptures, I mean, in India there is like the yoga, you know, which is like the exercises, and but this was everywhere in the on the planet, you know, like in ancient Egypt they had their form of exercises. In ancient Greece there was gymnastics, you know, which we it was basically also like a form of um, like what is yoga in India. In China you have like Tai Chi and Chinese gymnastics basically. So it was all over the world, you know. Probably in Afghanistan, I mean, we don't know that, but we know there was like an ancient civilization there, like 10,000 years old, you know. So most likely they had something similar, you know. I mean, yoga is in this form, you know, more static because it's very hot, you know, in India. So you can't run around, jump, you know, and
yeah.
flip around, you know, like in Greece or China. So they did try to to basically master their bodies and then the mind, of course, you know. So the advantages of this is pretty simple because you have many options open. If for example you as an individual you say like, okay, I can't do this, I can't go there, I mean, it's fine, you can choose that, but basically what happens, you're limiting your options, And eventually, if you limit enough, you box yourself in, and you will have only one option, which is terrible, and like a life which is not that great, because you suffer, you think you are forced into slavery, but it's actually you who enslaved yourself because you didn't give yourself many options. And of course, in Indian society, it's trying to do that, like you must study this, you must be an engineer, you must be whatever. So it basically boxes people in because it's like you have to have that path. So no other path is open or acceptable. So people suffer.
It's changing now, but yeah, of course,
Yeah,
of
no,
course,
I
of
mean,
course.
it's just an example and it's like a
Yeah.
and
I
which
understand.
in
Yeah.
the scriptures, it's an example, like Lord Krishna was an example that, and even Lord Rama, like he admired every job. Every job has mastery, purpose, knowledge, and you can become great. This is why the West is in a way more close to that, because say you're a builder, but like a simple builder, okay, you're paid, I don't know, £100 or whatever. Like a great builder, you can be paid like 5,000.
Yeah.
So he's still a builder, but he's like a great one, like a. So there is mastery in everything, even those boatmen or whatever, like the stories in the Ramayana, the boatman, boat who's rowing the boat or he's steering the boat.
What was the story?
So the story was like Lord Rama, he was exiled, so he had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
leave all his like instruments and tools and jewelries, and he just left with like some straw clothing. And then he went to a boatman to cross
River.
the river, and he admired the boatman, said, "Oh, you are so skilled, thank you for taking me. What would I do?" And he said, "No, I'm just a boatman, is the lowest, like because you need to be just strong and like boat. He said, "Yeah, but I wouldn't know how to steer the boat, to do like all these things, so you're like awesome, basically. So from his spirit, it was like genuine, because that boatman was really the most skilled at that boat, and no matter king or general or whatever was not more skilled at boat, like at the boat, and
Yeah.
they could not manage. So Lord Rama saw the beauty and the skill and the importance, actually, and not only that he saw it, he appreciated and enjoyed it, which is and elevated the person, so he will feel like there is a proud
Purpose.
of it, and to go even higher, to say like, okay, this is like it's something that is not just static, or because now complexities of things, it's within us. So any
Mm.
simple thing can be actually very complex and has many layers, and like for example the philosopher Immanuel Kant. I mean, it's not very well known maybe in India, like a famous philosopher. Now he's
Where is
famous,
he from?
I think Germany or
Okay.
Austria, I don't know.
Never heard of.
But the point is, he's like it's his famous extensive work. He never left that town, like never. And he was like a philosopher, like the great one at
Ah,
that time. He never left. He was in the same town, same house, same.
good time.
So yeah, I mean, that also like an expression of like huge complexity and thought without like leaving the place. So it's a like a
Wow.
parallel. So yeah, so I would say like the deities, like the stories or the deities themselves, pretty cool and awesome, by all means. The example for humanity.
That, but then the point is like because I mean I grew up listening to all the stories and everything, and of course because you were in Europe and stuff, you didn't have the chance to see up growing up and everything and stuff. Like all these saints who was born and then who took like what do you say in English? Like like Gyaneshwara
Mm.
took something at 21. What is that something?
Samadhi.
Some I I know the Hindi word samadhi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean I don't know what's the English word for samadhi.
like basically
I,
got out of the circle of reincarnation
yeah,
in a
yes.
way,
So
like
like he took samadhi at 21. Then there were like many saints because the people they were like lunatic, fanatic. They were like making their lives hell, basically.
yeah, it's all because of the same story, you know. They thought that, like, this Brahmin class, which were supposed to be the highest to like preserve the knowledge, but what they didn't understand that that knowledge is a living thing. It's not like just some stones and letters, you know. It's a living thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them, they lost this part, you know. They became dry and useless because this knowledge, if it's not living, you know. For example, how did I find out? Because okay, there is this knowledge. Now it's there for thousands of years, got preserved, you know, through luck, through whatever you can think of, but still great that it got preserved. Now my train of thought was like, okay, what is the purpose of this knowledge? Why is it so great? How can it be used? You know, if it's supposed to be useful for humans, how? So then I went through this direction, not like, oh, is this knowledge something unachievable and that's it, move on. No, it's like, how can this knowledge, great knowledge, be useful, you know, like to, and then you start to see different things from a different perspective, you know, like, okay, what is like, for example, yeah, in the case of Ganeshvara, you know,
Ganesha, yeah.
so he took like he was an outcast, and
Yeah.
he learned the like, no, actually he became an outcast. His family became an outcast because his father took like sannyasi. He became a sannyasi, but then he came back to his family, like sannyasi, you know, like to give up life, give
Yeah.
up family,
I
give
mean,
up everything.
I know.
And then yeah, maybe for, like, give up everything, and then just like for your own spiritual evolution. Then he came back
Ascetic,
ascetic, yeah.
ascetic, yeah, ascetic,
So
yeah.
this is considered like a great sin because you like abandoned God or something. So then the family became outcast, which was terrible. Outcast means no rights, no, you can't drink water from the
From
same,
from the same well
like
and
terrible
stuff.
stuff, like which
Yeah.
don't make sense. I mean, it's very bad, you know, because if these Brahmins were so great, they should be able to purify whatever curse, you know. But then where was the knowledge, you know? Because this is what we're supposed to be able to do,
And you
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 know?
you will offend some people.
What?
Like you will offend some people very like.
No, no, but because if you Brahmin, they have the knowledge, you know. Now, if you say, man, I only have the knowledge, but I can't do shit, it's okay. We get it, you know. But don't pretend like, okay, I have the knowledge and also I can do. Okay, then do, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a nice
So,
thought. Like, yeah,
so they're supposed to be able to guard, to do, you know, like this. So do it. Otherwise, like, stay out, you know, like. So, so yeah. So basically, and I'm not talking like a specific people. It was like the whole society became limited by these things and crippled actually, because I mean, not everyone, but some of them became dry, and they said no, the rules, and no more like heart, no more empathy, like somebody is dying in the street, like children. So it's like, yeah, but they are outcasts, rules, like gods, and like yeah, that's it. Nothing I can do. No, man, like it doesn't work like this, you know. Where is your heart, you know? Like you just do it, you know. Like so, this part, you know. I mean, of course, I'm. Not, it's not everyone, you know. But as you
yeah, yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah.
so what he did is basically a genius, an amazing feat. He studied the scriptures because his father was like a Brahmin, and he translated them into the common folks because they were written like in ancient Sanskrit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he
He translated
translated them
in like a simpler language,
simpler whatever,
day to day's language.
yeah, whatever
Yeah.
language they had. I don't know exactly the details, but
I
not
mean,
only that,
I've read this in Marathi because it was
yeah.
translated. But no, not
So
Marathi. Sorry, English. I
and
read it in English,
yeah,
but it was originally written in Marathi.
I
I'm not
think
sure.
Marathi, but
I'm
I'm
not
not
sure.
sure.
From Sanskrit to Marathi,
the
Marathi to
the
English.
point is not just about that he wrote it in the common language, in common tongue, but the greatness is that he those deep thoughts and ideas, which takes years, meditation, or he turned them into something that you can explain to a 6-year-old child, which
Yeah,
is,
yeah, of course, yeah.
and that says about the knowledge he had, like the deep, because now this is absolutely true, the Einstein saying, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old child,
Yeah.
means also you don't know.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All the knowledgeable people, scientists, they should really ask themselves this question,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, true, 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 true.
and then start to tell others what to do, like,
Yeah,
or how
like
to,
5 year old, like if you can.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah,
or
yeah,
5 or 6. Anyway, the
yeah,
point is,
yeah,
it's absolutely true. If you can't explain it like some, means also you don't know. So, so he obviously knew very well, like the scriptures, and he managed to, and it's a marvel, really, like to read it, it's
yeah,
really a marvel and amazing.
yeah,
So yeah, so that's an example of somebody making that knowledge practical, like, of course it's meant for like spiritual evolution and achieving some states which allows you to become like that, but that's another thing and another uh, topic, let's say. It's more like religious, and it's not like for, so yeah, in a nutshell, like my view of deities is like,
yeah. They were
they're,
history. According to you, they were history, right?
yeah, according to me, they were history and they were like real. Yeah, this is what
But
I
like, for
believe.
example, like let's say an example of Lord Hanumana. He was half born as a monkey, like an animal, and there were so many people in the army of Sri Rama when he went
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
They were like half animal. No, they were animals behaving like human beings and stuff. So there were some higher beings in between
yeah. Now
animals
this
and human
one,
beings.
because this things, they are not only like in all these legends or myth all over the world exist such beings,
Yeah,
So, Lord Rama was like before Lord Krishna, like way before. I
yeah,
mean, the thing is, the historians, they say like it's between this and that, but it's not clear that it's that, and mm, it's that date, it could be much earlier, these events.
mm,
So the thing is that we know for a fact that existed other hominids on the planet, like as early as like I think 11,000 years ago or something like that, or 15,000 years. So they were other hominids and they disappeared. They got absorbed like into. So, but and we know there were others. We found them, but doesn't mean there was no much more than we found. Like of these types of hominids. So. Yeah, could be one of those species, which have had a society, or,
mm, yeah,
but we don't know. But it's not like it's not like it's not that it's not possible to be like that.
mm, yeah. I mean, we can talk about it more in part two. The camera battery is dying, but we have 31 minute of footage.
Okay.
So, yeah,